Hello everybody, Shadow SP here, and we are back with more Granblue Fantasy. So today we're going to talk about a specific weapon series, one that we've talked about a little bit in my preparations for Proto Bahamut. We're going to be talking about the Draconic weapon series. Let's take a look. Now, there's the Draconic weapons, there's one for each element. There's a Fire Harp, a Light Katana, and the rest of them are still in the shop for me, so let's take a look in the shop. There is a Water Axe, a Earth Bow, a Wind Staff, and a Dark Gun. They're somewhat expensive to acquire. You can see, 666 quartz is a pretty hefty ask for a weapon. 500 weapon stones is doable, but it does hurt. The 30 Lindworm scales really isn't that big of a deal. And then for their uncaps, I happen to have two different Draconic weapons in my inventory at different uncap stages. So for their uncaps, you can see the 4-star uncap doesn't really require anything that's even remotely special. Remember back in the day when silver centrums were hard for us to have? Yeah, me too. So yeah, it's more Lindworm scales, some silver centrums, some paper, and a centrum of the proper element. So elemental centrum of the matching element, and for the 5-star uncap, it's 200 more weapon stones. So ultimately, the total of that on that front is 700 weapon stones for a specific weapon type, which is pretty steep. It's pretty steep. I'm not gonna lie. 15 of the 6 Dragons mat that you can get from either the 6 Dragon Advent or the 6 Dragons Raid series. It's the one that corresponds to their element. So, this one's the light one because this is the light weapon. You have 5 Damascus crystals, which is the hardest of these mats for us to obtain. I'll talk about that in a second. You've got 350 dragon scales of the proper element. These you can get at fairly high rates from the 6 dragons fights, but they are pretty hard for less developed accounts. So take it with a grain of salt. Malice fragments and red paper is nothing special. So ultimately, yeah, it's not that special. So, what about the Draconic weapons is special? Well, for one thing, they have 3 skills. If we look at the Draconic blade, we can see it has 3 different skills. The last one is locked. We'll talk about that in a second when I actually do the uncap. The first skill is a fixed skill. It is the Draconic. So the Draconic weapons are a weapon series that you can customize the skills of. They're not the only weapon series that's like this. There's also the Dark Opus series and the Ultima Weapons series. But the Draconic weapons have their own set of skills. The Opus weapons have their own set of skills, and the Ultima weapons have their own set of skills. They don't mix and match, though there are some similarities between them, and there are some parts that are very, very similar. Alright, so the first skill for each of these is an EX mod attack modifier. That is a static maximum 25%. So it boosts based on the number of turns passed. What the skill level does is it changes how fast that bonus stacks up. With the max skill level of 20, giving you a 2% per turn bonus. So it takes 13 total turns for this weapon to get to its full potential. Second skill is going to be a defensive skill. We have raw defense here, but there's also the option for elemental damage reduction. Usually the elemental damage reduction is going to be better if you're going to use this weapon against a specific element raid. But if you're planning on taking multiple elements of hits, the raw defense is going to outperform it. And then there's the last skill, which is going to be Big Majesty. You can choose between both normal mod and Omega mod, Big Majesty here. And Big Majesty at skill level 20 is 20% stack, 20% HP. It's really strong. So overall, the Draconic weapons have a good set of skills. They're pretty strong grid pieces. They do have a glaring fault, though, and I'll get to that in a second. But first, I want to talk about the these Damascus crystals. The best source of these, by the way, is events. So the fact that we're not doing events means we are starved for these. The best way that we have to get them is from FP. I believe they give 3 in the FP shop per month. So it's taken a little while. We're here. We've got it. Let's go ahead and uncap. And let's upgrade the skills. So we can see, based on what we can look at here, this has the same kind of skill scaling that the Bahamut weapons do and the Seraphic weapons. It's very expensive. It's very hard to stock up enough skill points to have this message not display. But this is fine. You get more SSR skill fodder than you know what to do with. So we get this up to skill 20. Let's go ahead and... I've got to do this live, where we level this weapon up to 20. So we can talk about the customization. Okay. Level this weapon up to 200, I mean. Okay, let's go like this. That's pretty good value. Alright. So, the customization options, right? We have now you can't do it from this screen. You have to the way that they make you do it, like you can do it from oh, hold on. There we go. Like, you can do it from this screen, but you have to enter this screen from the inventory screen, not the upgrade screen. It's really weird. There's this button for change skill, where you are able to use an item to change either one of these skills. You can change these skills at any time, right? So I have already prepared the Omega Majesty skill item, so I can put this in here. And now my Draconic Blade has Omega Majesty. So it's, skill level 20, skill level 20 defense, skill level 20 on this 25% ramping thing. And if I wanted to change these skills later, I can always come back in here, go to power-ups, go to skill items, Telumas, and here they are. Endurance is the raw defense, and then there's each of these for each of the elements. If I'm looking at my my light Draconic Blade, the best thing generally is going to be dark damage reduction. So, it costs some of these kind of generally worthless items from Lindworm, and some host crystals for M2. But this is worth using them on. As for the halos, the way that I got around not having halos, because we do, if you remember, I have these 20 don't count. They were a mistake to pick up. It's simple. We just use pendants. Yeah, it's just pendants. So I spent a bunch of pendants. Got the Omega Telemo, but you can get the Optimus one if you wanted to go with the normal mod version of the skill instead. And that's all good. Now we've got our weapon. So why is the Draconic weapon, if it's so strong, why is it that most of the time you don't see it used? Well, we can see it in the line restrictions. Draconic weapon can't be equipped with a Dark Opus weapon. The rest of that doesn't matter. The Draconic weapons and the Dark Opus weapon series are mutually exclusive. And the Draconic weapons are more defensively oriented. The Opus has the similar skill set, and we'll talk about the Opus weapon series later, but right now, just giving a very rough comparison, the Opus series has a very similar skill set, but first of all, the first skill, this one's really slow to ramp up, but the Opus weapons have basically no ramp up time for most of their secondary damage skills. And instead of a defensive skill, they come with more offense with cap boosting. And generally speaking, the Dark Opus is going to do better in pretty much every grid than the Draconic weapons. I mean, unless you need to reduce the damage that you're taking, most of the time you'd rather just pick an offensive option. Now, we don't have that option, so I'm very happy to get this Draconic Blade. But that leaves the question then, what happens to these weapons? What happens to the Draconic weapons when you have the Dark Opus series? When you have these other weapons that you'd use instead of them, and these Draconic weapons can't be equipped anymore? Do they just go into storage and never be seen again? Well, no. The rest of the line here is talking about Draconic weapon provenance, which is something that we can't see from here. And this is super late game stuff. Like, this is end game kind of stuff. So if you can't do this, don't feel bad. But yeah, if you have a Draconic weapon, you can come in here. There's Draconic weapon recollection. And we can upgrade Draconic weapons. Now, I obviously can't do this for a lot of reasons. But if you have your Draconic weapons fully upgraded, right, this is a somewhat affordable upgrade, minus the sands. But I mean, the sands are just something that you gotta farm out. Yeah, so like Damascus crystals, you'll have tons of these if you farm events over time. Quartz and weapon stones, you'll have tons of these if you produce a bunch of stuff over time. Red papers, you'll have tons of these over time. If you clear your dragon raids, you'll have tons of these. The real issue is this: the Provenance Crystal, which is obtained from an endgame level raid. Hexchromatic Hierarch. I prefer the Japanese name, which I think is like the Law of the Six or something ridiculous like that. Anyway, so what this does in the end, we can look at the stats after forging. It has the same skills, increases its stats, doesn't change the max level or the skill level, but what it also does is it removes that restriction that says it can't be equipped with the Dark Opus anymore. And that makes a lot of difference, but it also changes one more thing, in that it lets you equip this weapon in an EX slot in the extra party slots. So, like, when you look at the extra parties, right, the extra party slots. So if I were to have a Draconic, upgrade my Draconic Blade Provenance, I could equip that down here. And that's huge, because that's a slot that the Dark Opus cannot be equipped in. In addition, the charge attacks get improved, so their main hand usage is better. And you get access to 2 more Telumas that, we may have seen at the beginning. You get 2 more Telumas for the second skill. One of them is raw, like flat HP, 10,000 flat HP, which doesn't sound like a ton, but it does make a big difference. And the other one is a kind of seraphic counterclot, like a seraphic boost against null element enemies, which is hard to come by. So this is a pretty rare effect, and the weapon itself is good, and it comes with so many bonuses if you can manage to get here. But it's locked behind an endgame raid, so don't feel too bad if you can't do it. you don't need the Draconic weapons to be improved to do stuff. And I mean, I personally still use the Draconic weapons even unimproved. I've used them on my main account doing like Revan's raids. You know, raids where you need defense because they hit really, really hard. And on this account, we're going to use Draconic weapons. I'm going to build more than one because I don't know if anyone knew this, but we don't have very many gold bars. Right? We only have 2. We only have the 2 gold bars, and you need, in order to get a Dark Opus weapon to be actually factually better than a Draconic weapon, you need to use a gold bar. So we really don't have that leeway right now. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna farm for it. You know, because gold bars are farmable, but we haven't reached that point yet. And that's precisely what the Draconic weapons are for. Like in their initial forms, they are here to be a placeholder to transition in this mid game time from, you know, early game grids toward the actual later game stuff. They're here to increase our stats so that we can actually break through into the higher level raids. Oh, and in case anyone was wondering, if you're gonna raid them, and you shouldn't really care to raid them, the Fire Harp is probably the best because it is a fantastic main hand. The rest of them, their main hand usage is okay, but the Fire Harp is fantastic. All right, well, that little tidbit out of the way, we are going to go ahead and say that is it all for now. Actually, I've got one thing left to do. Let's see what the performance of the Draconic Blade is like. Let's take a team, like this team, and insert a Draconic Blade instead of one of these swords. You can see we have gained a decent amount. I should have checked the HP first. Hold on. I'm dumb. Sorry. Okay, so our HP total. We're at 40,000. And if I replace this with Draconic Blade, we go up on all metrics. And if we go up to turn number 10, it'll increase the EX mod to almost maximum. So we go up by almost like 2.8k HP. We go up in damage by a decent amount. And importantly, we go up in defense. We have a lot of defense. And defense is hard to come by. So it's gonna that will reduce damage taken and make the HP that you gain last longer. That is one of the final things left on my checklist for Proto Bahamut, so we're getting ready to give it a shot. Alright, without any further ado then, this has been Shadow SP. This went on a little longer than I expected, but I felt like we should talk about the Draconic weapons at least a little bit. They do deserve a little more respect than they get. Alright. Anyway, signing off. Thanks for watching. See you next time.